result of that, they came out with the amendments by which that would need to go through the Council of State approval by the Speaker of Parliament. Of course, that's a very contentious issue, and some of the points have generated a lot of debates. Now, the CPP has also waded into this very debate. Now, particularly, they've been very much concerned about the non-representativeness of, as far as they are concerned, some of those amendments that will be put forward for a referendum. They feel that it's not part of the original as put in the draft as submitted to the presidency, for which we had the committee coming out with a final document of the amendment, so to speak. What would you say to that?
Let me say that with regards to the constitutional amendment process, yes, a committee or a commission was set up by the late president, and we decided that we are going to collate the views of the country, you know, the people of this country, so that we'll see where we need to, you know, amend and what we need to add on board and what we need to even take out totally. But after the commission's work and the reports coming, I have gotten a copy of the reports. I have gone through some aspects of it, not entirely, but some aspects of it. And I have also seen the white paper that, you know, the late President Atanos brought. And you realize that there were so many things that were taken out in relation to the original report that came from the commission and the white paper that was presented. Indeed, I am also of the view that when we talk about the white paper and the report, so many things that has been dropped out, and there are some that has even been brought in, which were not, or yes, were not found in the original draft
as submitted by the commission.
Exactly, the commission. It tells us clearly that this indeed, per the white paper brought, it is not really a reflection of what really transpired by the commission. My difficulty again is not even about the reflection only, but the role of Parliament as far as this constitutional amendment is concerned. If you look at the processes involved, Parliament really do not have the power to say we are taking something out or we are bringing in something. All right? So what it means is that the bus really ends with and at the presidency. And so as long as a white paper has been issued, whatever is in the white paper
will be approved.
It will be approved, and it must go through referendum. You understand? Now,
well, after going through the Council of State.
Council of State. So I have a difficulty with the role that Parliament itself plays in it. Because Parliament, whether we like it or not, constitutes, you know, a significant representation of the people, better than the executive. And so if we tie the hands of Parliament and we say that Parliament really do not have a significant role in ensuring, in identifying what must be brought in and what must be taken out, then we are again shielding the interests of the people. You understand? The other thing has to do with when it has passed through Parliament and it has even gotten through the Council of State, we bring it out for referendum. You see, this referendum, the mode in which it is about taking, is also a disaster for chaos. You know why? Because it is just going to be a yes or no thing. And the yes or no,
referendums are always
fantastic. And the yes or no thing simply means that you go to the polls and there has been about 20, 21, 30 items. And all you need to do is to say, yes, I agree that there should be changes. No, I don't agree. The difficulty with this is that if you take the itemized bills, and then we have probably Article 41, and then we have Article 42, and you are in agreement with the proposals made to Article 41, but you are not in agreement to proposals made to Article 42, you still do not have the opportunity of saying, I'm voting yes for Article 41 and no for Article 42, simply because of the way it is going to be presented. all the amendments will be on one paper, and all of it you are supposed to vote yes or no to it. This does not represent, indeed, the interests of the people.
We have a representative of the CPP. He is already in the studio, and so we want to invite him into the discussions. And Niyama Kumfra is the Director of Communications at the CPP. We're taking a break. When we come back, he will also add his voice on this very concern that his party is raising. They are actually calling for a halt to the current process in itself. And we know that has always been a contentious issue raised by the minority, especially in Parliament, about the way this whole process is being taken through before we get to the referendum stage. They believe that it is not representative enough. It's not being subjected to a lot more debates to come out with a finality or an outcome on the whole subject. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll have our views from Niyama Kumfra. We've had in the studio as well Emmanuel Wilson. He is the national organizer of the People's National Convention, and we've been also speaking to him on the subject as well. We're taking a break. We're right. Well, he's joined us in the studio now. He was just behind the cameras there. So now Niyama Kumfra is the Director of Communications with the CPP, and apparently the CPP seem to be having some troubles, some difficulty. They don't seem to understand about how government and the presidency is going about the whole process of review or amendments to Ghana's constitution. And they seem also to have joined the minority in Parliament as well. What really is your beef?
Let me say good morning, firstly, to your listeners. And I don't know why you're saying that we don't seem to understand what the president...
That's my way of putting it.
I think maybe you want to jest with us this morning. But in all seriousness, I don't think that we're saying that we have a particular beef. There's a political arena. There's a process, and it's a huge process. To review the constitution of this country is not, and it's taking time, it's taking money, it's taking effort. But there still seem to be a lot of issues that need to be clarified. And all that we were saying was that those issues should be clarified before we get to a point where we know that, yes, the review process has come to an end. Let's now, as you remember, there's even a threatened court case against the whole process. There are people who are saying that, there are lawyers who are saying that the president has no remit to appoint a committee or a commission to go about what they are doing. So there are many issues which need to be clarified, and that's what we're saying. We should hold the process. We cannot continue with the process until all the legal issues are clarified, until issues within the constitution itself are clarified.
Okay,
that's all. It's as simple as that. It's not a matter of being confused. It's not a matter of not liking that the constitution needs review. You know, there are many people who feel that the protective clauses in the for coup makers and coup protests, etc., should be omitted. You know.
Okay, so we know, for example, when the minority raised the subject, Article 291 also became a contentious issue because it specifically states that a bill to amend a provision of the Constitution, which is not an enshrined provision, shall not be introduced into Parliament unless it has been published twice in the Gazette, with a publication being made at the last 3 months, etc. And then when you go to 292, a bill for the amendments of the Constitution would have gone through a certain process. Now, particularly when the concern has been that the Speaker shall, after the first reading of the bill in Parliament, refer it to the Council of State for consideration and advice, and the Council of State shall render advice on the bill within 30 days after receiving it. Now, this is where the contention is. The belief is that if we're saying the Speaker of Parliament, then what happens to the plenary or the committee of the whole?
Well, it's an issue. There's a difference.
Because the Constitution explicitly states that the Speaker of Parliament or Parliament.
Yeah. So there are different sides to it. There are different interpretations to it, and this is exactly some of the issues that need to be resolved. I can't say that I've looked at this in detail myself, but I would say that as long as there's a debate about it, it should be resolved before we proceed on that basis. You know?
Otherwise, what? Otherwise, you feel that...
Otherwise, we'll have a process which will not have buy-in from everybody.
Perhaps
we'll have a process which will be open to legal challenge, and we'll have a process that even the country will feel that somehow we've been through, we've devoted time, we've devoted effort, we've devoted money, and it's not quite what everybody wants. Because the Constitution should be something that everybody respects. It should be something that everybody accepts. If it's reviewed, everybody should feel comfortable that we are at a place where we want to be. And this is the reason why we're saying there are a number of issues open to challenge, a number of issues open to interpretation, and we should not have, we should not be in that position.
Okay, Wilson.
Yes. So,
yeah, 291.
Yeah.
291. One says a bill to amend a provision of this constitution, of course, which is not entrenched. An entrenched provision shall not be introduced into Parliament unless A, has been published twice in the Gazette, with the second publication being made at least 3 months after the first, and at least 10 days have passed after the second publication. Okay, good. But 2 says the Speaker shall, after the first reading of the bill in Parliament, refer it to the Council of State for consideration and advice. And the Council of State shall render advice on the bill within 30 days after receiving it. Where Parliament approves a bill, it may only be presented to the President for this assent, if it was approved at the second and third readings of it in Parliament by the vote of at least 2/3 of all the members of Parliament. It doesn't state that Parliament will need to take it through any debate.
Fantastic. So that reinforces my initial argument.
That's all about the President.
It's all about the President, and that does not represent the views of the populace. Because see, when you do this, you see, the difficulty is this, and I have said that this is the first time we are doing it in the life span of, in the life of, not Parliament, the life of our 92 Constitution. And so it is very important that we set the right precedent. The very moment you set the wrong precedent, things becomes, it continues that way. Now, when with reference to Article 291, as you just read, what this means is that if the next day another political party comes into office, he or she can decide to constitute a commission, and they will say that we are going through Article 291 as has been stated in our 92 Constitution. And so we will just set up a commission, let the commission do 1 month, 2 months, travel across the country, come back with a report and say that this is what we have reported. And then the President sits and then looks at it and say that, yes, in fact, this is exactly what I wanted us to do.
And do alterations.
Alterations to it.
And so this is what I have now come up with.
So it continues and it continues and continues.
I mean, plainly, that's what it is.
That is what it is. And that is very, very, very dangerous a precedent for us. Now, so the role of Parliament, as far as Article 291 is concerned, is something we need to look at very critically. The other thing we also need to look at, as far as the constitutional review is concerned, is Article 290. If you can read Article 290, in fact, as you look for it, but Article 290 simply talks about amending of entrenched provisions. Now, if you look at the white paper, as I said, I have a copy of the white paper. Now, if you look at the white paper, in all, we have 34 entrenched provisions that are supposed to be amended. 34. Now, the 34...
You said you want
290 sub 2.
Okay.
Now, the 30, if you've gotten it, you can read it before I continue with my...
I've gotten it. A bill for the amendment of an entrenched provision shall, before Parliament proceed to consider it, be referred by the Speaker to the Council of State for its advice, and the Council of State shall render an advice on the bill within 30 days after receiving it.
Fantastic. So the wording here talks about entrenched provision. Provision, not provisions. Currently, the white paper contains 34 entrenched provisions.
Well, doesn't matter.
No.
Is it not generic enough?
Wait. What it means, with regard to what I raised earlier on, is that after it going through the process, the latter part of the 290(2) and just opposing it to the provision in Article 291, after it going through the provision, it just gets to the for referendum. And I've told you that with referendum, you just go to the polls to say yes or no.
Yes. So we have a problem. We're trying to
we have
say yes or no to 34
34 entrenched provisions. If, for instance, Article 5 of the Constitution is an entrenched provision, just for the argument purposes. Article 5 is an entrenched provision. Article 6 is an entrenched provision. Article 5 says that, and just for argument purposes, Article 5 says that we should abolish the death penalty. Article 6 talks about something else, probably increasing the emoluments of executives, appointees, government appointees every 2 months or something. And you are in tangent with with Article 5, but not with Article 6. The form that the referendum takes will prevent you from saying, I am voting yes for Article 5, and I'm voting no for Article 6.
Clearly.
And that is logrolling. When you logro a lot of things, it becomes so difficult. And it's so dangerous about that. You understand?
That's why they need to be, Emmanuel is right. That's why they need to be a process.
So the finality is what? We have to go to the Supreme Court.
No,
what
the finality is that we have
to resolve all the disputes.
We have to resolve all of this on even how we're going to conduct a referendum. On all of these changes, yes or no, cannot be applied to several changes. Okay. So what is the process? Do we go through 290, 291, 292, around
so
the point where we have consensus? So there needs to be some level of
clarification and then consensus building on the subject.
Let me give my proposal on that.
Now wait, I'll do that. Now,
going through the
yes, since we're not getting a consensus on that.
We can get a consensus. Okay, so we just haven't put ourselves through that process.
The point is that we're not getting it currently. So wouldn't it be right if we just straight away head to the court, the Supreme Court? They give us an interpretation of the Constitution, which clearly is in dispute among the various stakeholder groups as far as we're concerned. It could be the opposition, or it could be civil society, which also seems not to be agreeing to the current subject.
We can go to court.
Political commentators and political parties.
We can go to court, or we can all fold our arms and watch the government and see how a referendum is going to be conducted.
But it will affect Ghanaians yes another generation, another time.
34
over 34 or over several things that need to be approved.
Right.
So clearly, it's an impossibility. And, you know, the government, rather than sitting down and trying to get all legal brains together, because what is the Supreme Court going to decide? It can't go to the Supreme Court. But why don't we, as a political arena, try and resolve these issues rather than seeking to rush through when we know that there's a stumbling block ahead. There's a stumbling block ahead. And
Roland, mine is very simple. Yes, if we want to go to court, we may want to do that to seek clarification. But in all this, I am making a simple proposal that whilst we want to go in a rush to set the wrong precedents as far as the constitutional reform review process is concerned, why don't we just focus on Article 291 and say that we want to amend just Article 291 to give Parliament the power beyond the powers that has been given to Parliament in Article 291. Let's just do that.
Do we want to amend it, or perhaps take it to the Supreme Court, get an interpretation of it? I think that's the best way for us to go. Okay, now I know that this subject has been on for a couple of months now, even weeks, and it will always continue.